So I started working at a company called Intex Information Services, which was a subsidiary of Siemens Business Services, which is a very large uh, corporate company, an IT company. I think it's headquartered in Germany. And I was working at in Oakland, California. I was working inside the Kaiser Tower on the third floor, and right next to Lake Merritt. I think it's called Lake Merritt. And I used to jog around Lake Merritt during my lunchtime. So what I was doing was I was doing IT work. I was replacing hard drives. I was installing memory modules. I was reformatting hard drives, removing viruses, mapping network drives. What else was I doing? I kept an inventory room with all these parts. I had a room full of spare parts. Installing software, dealing with driver issues, things of that nature. And I really liked what I did. I enjoyed it, and not only did I enjoy it, but I was good at it. I found peace with the work that I was doing. I really liked it, and I had my A+ certificate. I had 2 Microsoft certificates. This was back back in the days of NT Workstation 4.0. And I was studying for my Cisco certification. I was going to become a Cisco Certified Network Associate. And I was studying the different OSI layers, and I really liked the Cisco networking stuff. I loved getting inside of these wires and figuring out what was going on inside these fiber optic cables, like what kind of information was being transmitted down there. So all of the encapsulation techniques and everything was really exciting to me. And I'd moved over to Sacramento, California, where I kept doing the same work. And I had bought my first house. It was a condominium in Citrus Heights, California. It was a $60,000 mortgage. This was back in 2001. And I had a brand new car. I had a girlfriend. I had a pretty typical life. It was a pretty average life. And I was attending church. And I was going to church. I started going to church. I had got, saved. My terminology has changed now that I'm a little bit older. But when I was in that military brig I had spoken of, I had got saved. That's when I literally asked Jesus into my heart, which I know now is kind of a magic spell. That's called invocation. when you ask a spirit into your heart and body. So that's magic. But I had got saved, and I asked Jesus into my heart when I was in a military brig at the age of 20. Pearl Harbor Naval Brig in Hawaii. And to pick off where I was at, so I'm in Citrus Heights, California, and I'm attending church, and I'm going on Sunday mornings. I'm going to church on Sunday mornings, and I'm participating in the prayer and the worship just like anyone else would. And I became fascinated with the concept that you could take time out of your life, a couple hours every Sunday, and you could sacrifice that amount of time, give up that time for some other cause, another purpose, and you could get something back. In other words, what I got by going to church every Sunday was I received mental balance, because, as I explained to you, I wasn't really mentally balanced back then. I was struggling with a lot. I had a lot of issues, and I had what I consider to be a poor lower class upbringing with very neglectful mothers, and neglect causes, and they were narcissists. So my mother and stepmother were narcissists. It caused a lot of issues. So going to church every Sunday, I realized that there was this force that you could tap into that would bring balance to your life, and it would ultimately kind of make you happy. And it almost appeared to be a formula, and I love formulas. I'm obsessed with formulas because formulas are fixed. H2O, if you take hydrogen and you add 2 parts, or if you take 2 parts hydrogen and you add 1 part oxygen, you're going to get water every time you do it. But no matter where on the planet you're at, that's the formula. You're going to get that when you add those 2 elements together. So I love formulas because they're fixed and you can rely on them and you can depend on them. So I'm going to church, I'm getting balanced, and I'm cultivating friendships. And iron sharpens iron, and it was great. It really was. And I was getting balanced, and that's what I was wanting. I was kind of getting my life together. So knowing that there was this reciprocal relationship, that the amount of like, I don't know, good things and peace and joy that you get, the amount of peace and joy that you get, and all these gifts of the Spirit that's mentioned in the Bible, all these things were in direct correlation to the amount of time that I would spend in prayer or in fellowship with other Christians. And so when I realized that, I'm like, dude, that's a formula. There's a direct correlation. And I liked formulas, so I amped it up. I started going to men's group on Wednesday night, men's Bible study on Wednesday night. So now I'm going to church on Sunday mornings, and I'm going on Wednesday nights. And I'm like, this is great, dude. I'm going to amp it up some more. So I started participating in the ministries and the outreach programs. And I was ministering to the homeless. And there were other programs that we were getting involved in the community. And I'm like, this is awesome, man. And then like I said, I still wanted more. So I started waking up an hour and 45 minutes before work every morning, Monday through Friday. And what I would do is I would read the Bible for half an hour. I would pray for 15 minutes, and then I would watch like televangelism on TV for an hour. So I was really I was saturating my mind with the Spirit. I was just investing all this time into the Spirit, day after day, week after week, and I did this for a full year. And it was pretty awesome. I was getting so much out of it. Oh, by the way, the house that I had, so I had rented out this house right around this time. I was renting out a room. I had a mortgage, and I was paying it. I had my car bill. I was paying those off, and I was renting out my room for $400 a month. Well, it was only a 2-bedroom condo. It was like 1,000 square feet, so it didn't cost that much to begin with. And it wasn't in the best neighborhood, but it was in a safe neighborhood. And so now I'm getting $400 cash from my roommate. He's not even there. He's just using it as like he wasn't even there. It was really actually nice, renting out a room to someone who's never even there. So I had all this cash flow. I had cash flow coming out the wazoo. It was awesome. And I took this 1-year lease agreement from this gentleman. I took it to my real estate agent. I said, hey, I'm getting income from this guy. I want to buy a second house. I was about to, so I was already in real estate. I was already getting rental income. I was in the IT world. I was in the IT sector, and I'm already getting rental income from my properties. And I'm like, this is awesome. And everything was just going very well. I was very balanced, and everything was just going really, really well for me. So around this time, I was working on site, and I was stationed on site with the Department of Motor Vehicles and the Department of Social Services. I wasn't working directly for them, but I was on site, assisting them with their IT needs. And that was when 9/11 happened, okay? So September 11th, 2001, the Twin Towers were destroyed, demolished. When that happened, everyone else was kind of in a bit of a panic. And as every other Christian did at the time, I prayed for it, and I said, God, I kind of want to see this from your perspective, not from mine. I want you to tell me what's going on here. And I was given a scripture by the Spirit, and it was it was in the book of Jeremiah, and it was basically God telling Jeremiah, said, "Do not weep for them, Jeremiah." And a little bit more prayer, a little bit more discernment, praying about that and trying to inquire a little bit more. And what I got out of that was that, the Spirit or God, whatever is out there, was telling me, do not cry for them, do not weep for them, and do not pray for them. And what I got was their prayers aren't being heard. Basically, is what I got out of that. Their prayers are not being heard. So I took that seriously. That's definitely not what other Christians around me were getting. That's not the message that everyone else was getting, but that's what the message I was getting. That's the message I was getting. And, keep in mind, at this time, I had been investing 4 times, I would say at least a minimum of 4 times as much time and energy into communion with God or Spirit as the typical church-going Christian. 4 times a minimum. And compound interest is a real big thing. It's not only a monetary concept, it's actually a spiritual concept as well. That will compound all that time and energy you spend into God or the universe or Spirit. That compounds. Okay, it's a real thing. So I took that seriously, and I stopped. I didn't focus on it anymore. 9/11 happened. I got God's perspective on it. I didn't care. I lost interest. I wasn't going to allow that whole event to absorb my time and energy anymore. So, right around this time also, I started having a lot of visions and dreams. And this is actually biblical. The Bible does say that your sons and daughters will prophesy. They will have dreams. They will have visions. And I started having them. I started having visions and dreams. I had a vision. It was a really intense vision. I wasn't even asleep. I was halfway between awake and asleep. I was in my bed. And I had a vision of Atlantis. It was Atlantis. And I saw the Ark of the Covenant. And it wasn't just one ark. It was a trail of arks. It was a whole bunch of them. It was like a chest. It was a chest. It was a golden chest. It's kind of old-fashioned. And I saw the priests that were carrying it. And there was a levitation device attached to these chests. It was these, on the corners of these chests were these anti-gravity devices. And they were just floating. You didn't really have to hold them like we typically see people, priests holding the Ark of the Covenant. I saw that they were being levitated. So, I thought that was interesting. And let's see, I want to talk about. So along with the visions and dreams, I'm also having these divine meetups with people. And if you don't know what a divine meetup is when you just know that when you bump into someone, whether it's at work or at a restaurant or in church or whatever it is, you bump into someone and you just know that God or the universe has placed this person in your path for a very specific reason at a very specific time. They're called divine meetups. It's just when you bump into someone and it's like, wow, dude, wow. I just, you were placed here for me. I just know it. And it's those divine meetups are very restorative. They're very warm. They're very natural and organic. And they lift you up. And it's a very reciprocating thing, too. It's not out of need or want. It's not out of like a neediness or wanting someone in your life or anything like that. But it's, if you walk by the Spirit, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's very reciprocating, too. It's not just I'm taking or I'm just giving. It's reciprocating. It's really nice. And, sometimes these divine meetups happen for people who jump into your life for 5 minutes. And other times, they'll be in your life for like 10 years. Which brings me to divine friendships. There are divine friendships that take place as well. People that will come into your life in a divine way, and you just know, oh man, this is the universe, or this is God, whatever it is out there talking to us, and put this person in my life. And it's just really neat, and it's a great feeling. And I've had a couple friends in my life for I think 6 or 7 years now. Those are divine friendships. Um, Nothing but restorative, and nothing. It's always reciprocal. You know, it's give and take, and there's a balance. It's nice. It's not neediness or wantingness. Um, so I understood what a divine marriage was, and I've always been seeking that out, and I've been waiting for it. I'm 40 years old. I'm still waiting for that divine marriage, and I believe it's possible. I always have. I've fallen short of that many times, but so I took this kind of like vow of celibacy. I don't know if it was like a formal vow of celibacy or anything, but something the Spirit told me when I was 23, and I'm now 40 years old, was that stop seeking for a wife. Don't look for her. I felt like the Spirit was saying, I will place her right in front of you, and you will know that she's your wife. You're not going to have to guess. You're not going to have to wonder. You don't have to search for her. And divine meetups, divine friendships, divine marriages, and this is what will restore the earth, things like this, okay? So, and what that allowed me to do is to kind of put away females for a while, to put away women for a while, and oh goody, a chemtrail, how nice, how lovely. So I put away this seeking women or pursuing women, and just focused on what I was doing. Focus on me, focus on Spirit, Holy Spirit, Great Spirit, the Great Pumpkin Spirit, whatever you want to call it. Everyone's calling it something different. And this was nice. And I've, out of loneliness and stuff, and I've fallen short of that many times, actually. But every time I would have a sexual encounter with someone, it was always empty. I could tell that it wasn't divine. There was a couple times when I think it might have been, I believe, but I fell short of that celibacy quite a few times. I'm not gonna deny that, but I still believe in divine marriages, and I think it's very important that young men also submit to that, because I really feel that that's what will restore this planet back to its former glory. By the way, what I saw in Atlantis, man, people were happy. There was a lightness to the residents of Atlantis. I saw them in like theme parks and stuff like that. They were happy. They were peaceful. They didn't have this look of oppression that everyone else has in this country. They're not burdened by popping medication pills and psych pills, and they didn't have that. I saw their eyes, and I saw their demeanor of their face, and they were in tip-top shape. They were in great shape, man. It was everything. It was all innocence. Everyone was so innocent.